Hi everyone, this is my 2007 Ford F150, and today instead of building stuff and fixing things inside of Fallout and my digital wasteland, I'm going to fix something in the real world. I need to get the window regulator fixed on this driver's side door here. The door handle has completely fallen off, so we're going to do that today, and hopefully you'll learn something new. Maybe it can help you out with your own vehicle. Let's get things going. Alright, today we are changing the window regulator in my Ford F150. This is a 2007 model, and I've already started removing some things. I had to remove that speaker cover. I'm going to have to pull the speaker bolts out of there. I think there's a bolt behind it that I need to get to. There's two behind this little panel at the door handle. And there's at least a couple of bolts down here at the bottom, which I have already removed. I highly recommend you finding something to put these bolts slash screws in as you remove them. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the remaining bolts that I find. I'll let you know if I come across any other ones that I haven't revealed so far. And then we'll take a look at what this old regulator has done. I do know that the handle inside has popped off of the frame, so it does require a complete replacement, and it's a manual one, so I don't have to worry about any motors. But let's get the cover off and see where we need to go from here. Okay, now once I got the bolts off of the door, I got these two out, took out the four for the speaker. You're able to just kind of lift up on the door to get the panel to come off of the frame, but you do have these two holes here, which is part of where the screws for the speakers went in. I did have to pry this out so that this would lift above them. And then if you didn't break your door handle like I did, where the shaft is completely detached, you're going to have to remove the door handle. So to do that, you're going to have to pull this little plastic piece off, and you're going to have to remove this bolt here, which is not your standard Phillips or anything. It's one of these little star bolts. So you're going to need to make sure you have the right tool to remove this door handle, or else you're going to be stuck in place. But for me, I don't have to do that because the whole thing is detached on the inside, so it's kind of useless as it is. I will have to remove it as I get to the final stage of this so that I can put it onto the new one, but it isn't important to me right now to get this panel off of the door. Anyway, I'm going to pull the panel back, and as you will see, there's a bunch of plastic down here, so I'm going to have to slowly peel this plastic off. This is the protectant for water and stuff, so it doesn't come into the truck. So I'm going to have to peel that off so we can get into the workings of the door and get to our old regulator so we can pull it out. Alright, so here we are. I've got the plastic off of the door panel. I removed a clip from here, which was attached to the line that goes to the door handle opener. I did that so I didn't have to play around with anything with this door assembly and the handle. It was working just fine. I didn't want to take any chances of not being able to get in and out of the vehicle with ease, so I just decided to remove this clip so that I could just drop this down to the ground and work around it. So you can kind of see inside the door here, this is the old regulator. We're going to need to pull the bolts for it to replace. This is where my handle fell off of the old one. So yes, that part's completely gone. Okay, so your window sits into the regulator on these little things. I had to get to where I could see this, I had to roll the window down. And you can see the window's got its own little shape, but they use a screwdriver that has this star pattern here, right? And basically this bolt tightens to ensure that this is clamped around the window glass. It keeps it from moving. If it adjusts in here, then your window may not go all the way up, even though the regulator's at its full extension, that sort of thing. There's one on this side. There's also one on this side. This one's a little bit harder for me to get to. Even rolling the window down all the way is going to make that hidden, so I'm probably just going to have to roll it up to about here. just so I can try and get to it from an angle, but you can see it down there. And I need to unloosen these before I move forward, right? So I'm going to loosen these, and then I'm going to roll the window all the way back up. So what you're going to do is grab yourself a 1/4 inch driver and a 10mm socket, and if you come over here, roll the window down enough, you can get to the regulator really easy over here. So just do that, and that'll get you to this one that doesn't have a very open hole to get you to, and then this one over here will be very easy. Okay, so I loosened the bolts on our regulator, so the window is free floating. If I were to roll the window regulator down, it is not attached to the window regulator anymore. I cut some pieces off of my box for my new regulator, and I have wedged them into the lip of our window here so that it will hold the window up. Now, I've seen it where people do this and they just put one piece in, and that's probably efficient. However, the whole thing of this keeping in place is using friction. So the more points of friction I have, the less chance my window is going to come flying down while we're doing work, and I won't have to buy a new window. So better safe than sorry. I put more than one wedge in here to keep the friction on this window. And this is my improv window handle. I'm just going to roll down the window regulator, and that should leave our window in place as long as we did everything correctly with that. If your window starts to move, then your wedges aren't in there well enough. And you can see my regulator's coming down with no window. So now I am safe to start removing these bolts that are holding the window regulator in. And it looks like there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And then we will remove my temporary window handle and try and find a way to get this thing out and the new one in. Alright, so here's my replacement window regulator. I did match it up against my old one, and that is a match. Now, it did come with new bolts for each one of the 4 points, but it did not come with new bolts for here. So don't discard your old bolts until you know whether or not you have replacements for them. Now, for installing this, I'm going to leave these 3 bolts on these 3 corners in, so that I can kind of slide them over the little ledge that is in there. Now, this top one was behind that piece of metal that we see down in that hole. So for that one, I'm going to pull the bolt out completely because I feel like it'll get hung up as I'm trying to get things in place. Plus, this isn't going to be easy to get in through this little L-shaped hole we have here. Looks kind of like a foot now that I look at it. Because of this handle. This handle is going to make it awkward to get things to go and slide in place the way we want. But we're just going to treat it like a puzzle and get it in there and then get these bolts in the right place. And then it should be as simple as tightening those things up so that we can get the glass set into these little channels of the new piece, and then putting things back together. So hopefully it goes as easy as I just made it sound. Alright, so I thought I'd stop and I'd show you this stage of where I'm at and getting the regulator in. So I found the easiest way was to get this left side in first without the window door handle, and just to kind of turn it sideways, make sure you don't cut this wire that's here, and push that in. And then to turn this one sideways and slide it in, you may have to kind of worm things around, but as you can see, it went in there now. I just have to get this up to our hole up here and get these bolts to sit into their little ledges. But I am on the final stretch of getting this puzzle solved, but hopefully that'll save you some time as you try and figure out how to put the regulator back in the door. That seems to be the easiest way, doing a diagonal this way, starting with the left side, then moving to the side with the window regulator. Alright, so I got the new regulator in, and I want to point out a couple of things. First, when you have the new regulator in, it's going to be hard to see, but you have like the bars pieces here. Make sure all of this ends up in front of where your window is inside the door frame. If anything goes behind the window, then it's in the wrong spot. Now, something with this regulator, it is an aftermarket piece. and it does not use this bolt hole up here. Nothing goes as high as the original one. Instead, it stops about here. So to get this bolted in and fully secure, I'm going to need to drill a hole in this panel here so I can get through to bolt in our thing. Now, before you do anything like that yourself, one, double check, make sure you've got the right part. I think they did this on this one so you can get it into the hole. If they had made it taller, it would have been a much harder squeeze to get things in there. So I think they did that to make it easier to get things in. I did throw on my my wrench here and roll things up and make sure that these come into contact with the window once it is pretty much fully extended with this regulator, and it does reach to the top, so I'm not worried about having any issue getting the window to seat into these clamps here for the regulator. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill myself a hole here and get that bolt in so that I can move forward with seating the windowsill into these new clamps. Make sure that everything's still secure with your window. If you did it right, it shouldn't have moved at all throughout that process. I was fairly rough at times, not crazy rough, but fairly rough. It didn't budge at all. So everything is going pretty smoothly except for this little hiccup here with needing a hole for securing this part of the regulator to the door frame. Once I have that in place, we'll be on the home set, and we'll have this thing put back together in a jiffy. Okay, so I've got my regulator in, I got my hole drilled, and I put my final bolt in. This thing isn't going anywhere. So now we need to seat the window to the new regulator. And so I loosened the bolts on these, and then take your finger, kind of spread them apart, because this is rubber. It's meant to grab hold of that glass and make it not slip. So you're going to want it to be spread apart and easily movable, not kind of still clamped together when you get up there to the glass. Same thing on this side. Had to use my trusty 1/4 inch driver here to get in there again, but it's loosened and I've made sure that it moves a little bit, and we're going to roll this all the way up. Now, if you did what I did and you put your cardboard in the way of where the regulator is going to meet the window, you're going to have to slide it over. Just be careful when you do it. You don't want to end up dropping this glass, because glass is expensive, and it's going to take a lot more work to get this entire thing open to put in a piece of glass. So don't do that. Anyway, so I'm going to roll this up using my little wrench here and get this seated. Then I'll remove my cardboard and roll it down slowly so that we don't have any slips or bumps along the way. And then we're going to tighten up these once we get it there, and we will roll it up just to make sure that we are getting the window all the way up to the top with it seated the way we have set it doing that process. All right, so let's get this going. All right, here I am at the moment of truth. I've got my window regulator, the new one, rolled all the way up so that the clamps are seated onto the window. I'm going to remove my cardboard. It is still supported by the current thing, so no catastrophic failure so far. Let's see if rolling this down will get us anywhere. Let's see what happens. Nope, it's not moving, so I may have to help it along. Let me turn the video off so I don't crash any windows. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the window rolled down. It is in these clamps. I haven't tightened down these bolts yet. We're seated over here in this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these bolts and then just roll the window up, make sure it closes fine, and then we'll just have to put our plastic back on, put this back into its hole there, put our door panel back on, and then bolt everything back together. Alright, as you can see, the window is all the way up. I can roll the window down and I can roll it back up. Now it does get a bit hard towards the top here, and part of that is, I think, because of this special bolt that we had to put in. I think I need to add some space so that it doesn't try and bind up top there. But the other thing is this has always been a little bit hard to pull up. That's why the other one broke off. So I think I'm going to use a trick by our friend Scotty here on YouTube and throw some silicone lubricant on the seal here to keep things from sticking, and hopefully that'll make this easier to go up once it hits the top of the area here. So here we are. I got my window up. I've got the door panel back on. The last thing I have to do is put the door handle into its location here. Now, I do want to point out for this door handle, this is a pretty small hole. So I had to find a specialized screwdriver that has a thin barrel, because I have plenty of regular old 1/4 inch drive like style screwdrivers that have this bit for them, but it's too wide when it gets to this point to go into this hole to get to your screw. So when you do this, make sure you either have a dedicated kind of Allen key type thing with the star end on it instead of the hexagon, or get yourself a thin screwdriver like this one that will go down into the hole. Maybe a computer parts thing, or you can probably find it at Home Depot. This is just like from an 18-piece little set, and it just happens to have a smaller diameter barrel here for the bits than your standard screwdriver. So keep that in mind. That's my final tip for this. Once I get this on, everything will be good to go, and pretty much that's the basics for how to change the manual window regulator for a 2007 Ford F150 or similar model year. Okay, so here we are. Window is in place. Door handle's been attached. And down and up. So there we go. One working window regulator, good to go. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest content from Vladministrator Gaming. Until next time, I'll see you in the wasteland.